Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week. As this is the second week of the season, we're reverting back to our standard usage of untapped base statistics for this video. We're going to be using the top 50% infinite as a filter. We're also going to be organizing everything by win rate with a secondary characteristic of cube rate for things that are in the same percentile range. With that being said, let's get started with deck number one, and it's not even the deck on the screen. I just want you to know I've been playing this classic surfer deck because, hey, it's a lot cheaper, and I'm like, hey, people probably want a bit of a cheaper deck here, and this actually has been doing good for me, so I just want to highlight it here. It's actually not on the top 10 at all, but if you want to play some classic surfer that actually does pretty well, I like this a lot, especially when you have Hope Summers on the board. You play the Sarah on top of Hope Summers. That gives you enough energy to play a 3-drop plus surfer plus absorbing man, and it'll surprise you how much power you can put out. Obviously, there's sexier ways to play surfer right now, especially if you have Galacta, but if you don't have Galacta, hey, here's a deck for you. Then we got to go to the actual top 10. There's going to be a lot of Galacta there, by the way. But what I will say is we got an Asgard deck finally making it up here. But, I mean, the stats are pretty weak. A 53% win rate and a 0.20 cube rate. It's nothing necessarily to get excited about, but at least it's a start. You do have the buffed Lockjaw here. King Eitri makes this deck. And, of course, you have the Spider Ham and the Wasp, which are useful. You also have Gore in here, because Gore is just an excellent in-slot 6-cost card. Dr. Doom Odin, Jane Foster. I mean, this is a pretty interesting take on the Asgard style deck, but of course you're really looking to generate value with that Lockjaw, especially now that Lockjaw can obviously swap out multiple cards, which makes the Lady Jane play very interesting. If you happen to not have Lockjaw, you can still use the Odin in combination with the Mjolnir and the Stormbreaker to generate value that way. But I like this deck a lot. I wish it was a little better, but at least it's making a top 10 deck now. Deck list, I should say. So, hey. Then we're going to talk about Thanos here now. I was actually interested in seeing Thanos making the top 10, and coming in at number 9, 54% win rate, 0.29 cube rate. Anything above 3.0 cube rate is considered good. So this is like just off of being good, and 54%, I mean, we get so used to playing decks that are like 60% win rate, 59. 54 is still pretty okay. Like, it's not crazy bad. But what we're looking at here generally is like a deck that gets propped up by Galacta. Like, Galacta is going to be making her way into a ton of these decks naturally. With the stones, Gore works really well because so many of the stones, well, pretty much all of them with the exception of the select few, do have the ongoing ability. So Gore just generates value from that altogether. You'd have the Alliant, the Mockingbird. A lot of reasons to love this deck. I do like the tech of Red Guardian here. When I was testing this deck, Red Guardian honestly carried a ton. I did find the Splash of Gladiator fun. It's just a fun card to play, high statted, very powerful, potentially particularly disruptive. And I like playing Gladiator into like Mr. Negative decks because we might play negative and then you're actually able to blow something up that they're depending on drawing with Lady Jane or something like that. So I think that's kind of interesting. But anyways, Thanos coming in at number 9, at least it's interesting, and a new kind of take on Thanos. Coming in at number 8. It's kind of sad a little bit. It's Arishem at a 54% win rate and 8.32 cube rate. Now, this is Arishem, oh, man. So this is like the best version of Arishem right now, but I think people kind of just dropped him. I would suspect that there's going to be more Arishem out there where, there's going to be a better version of Arishem eventually, I think, and I think it's going to take some time to cook it. This is currently the statistical best. However, what I will say is that like it feels as though he got hit hard. And I was thinking about a lot about this, and I actually think that maybe it was unfair to nerf him as much as they did. Now, I know Arishem was a bit of a pain in the ass, and like I get that people were kind of sick of him to some degree, but he was a card that I think a lot of players unlocked, they paid their tokens for, and it was particularly friendly for new players too, because it would give them access to an archetype that they didn't necessarily need to break the bank with. And so like taking Arishem completely out of the meta, I think it might do a lot of harm to the set, like the actual like the enjoyment factor of Marvel Snap for a lot of people, right? So I think that it might be important for them to consider what nerfing Arishem does long term to the game, especially since it's one of the few cards that does feel like it's potentially budget friendly, because you could just play Arishem with a bunch of tech cards. Like obviously the ideal versions are more expensive than that, but they killed Loki, which is also a relatively new player friendly card. They killed Arishem, which was a relatively new player card. So it's like, what are new players supposed to play? What are just budget-oriented players supposed to play? What are players who are not collection complete supposed to play? And I had this kind of thought. I'm like, Arishem and Loki were those cards. Like, those were those archetypes for those players. So, I mean, I think that, I don't know, we got to start thinking about the players generally and just, like, how we can make sure that they're having positive experiences in the game. And I don't know if nerfing Arishem ultimately did that. Like, I don't know, it's been weighing on my conscience. Like, I was annoyed with Arishem just like everyone else, but it's just been weighing on my conscience. Like, what does that do to the actual game experience for like the average player that we want in the ecosystem? Anyways, it's a conversation for another day. Mally discard. Now, there's actually 2 discard decks going to be making the top 10, which surprised me, but a 55% win rate, 0.22 cube rate, a little on the low side here. This has been a fun deck. I like this deck a lot. I do like the fact you have Strong Guy here. You have the Malekith, of course. Malekith's an absolute win in so many pulls here, and I do like the idea of pulling Grandmaster here as well. Grandmaster could be particularly fun in a deck like this, but there is a better discard deck we're going to talk about momentarily, but it's cool to see that the Malekith discard shell does work well. And this week I was just doing some some missions for like the guild, and I was getting, well, alliance, I call it guild, I don't know why. I was just doing classic discard, and it's surprisingly good. It's surprisingly consistent, honestly. So Mally discard coming in at number 7 here. At number 6, we're starting to see a lot of Galacta. Like, Galacta is going to start making its way into a lot of these top decks, which, I mean, is an interesting discussion in and of itself. Galacta Wiccan, I do like these Speed Wiccan decks. Speed has often been cut from a lot of these decks. It's kind of cool to see him making a kind of a statement here. And this actually runs Mirage too. This deck at a 0.36% cube rate, and a 55% win rate. I messed that up, but whatever. I think it was kind of interesting. And the reason why I wanted to feature this deck was because it has Hydration Robert, it's got Jeff, it's got Valentina, it's got Speed, it's got Nocturne, it's got Copycat. It's got a lot of cards that, like, yeah, okay, some of them are relatively expensive at Series 5, but it's cards we haven't been seeing a lot of, right? These are a lot of cards that we just have not been seeing a lot of, and now it's making a deck at a 55% win rate, 0.36 cube rate. That's pretty cool. Like, we want to see cards that like aren't necessarily seeing a lot of play at the top, but now we're going to see this very consistent through line through to the top 1, where it's like, oh, there's a lot of Galacta decks here, right? And this is the start with Galacta Wiccan. As we go to number 5, which is going to be Penny Galacta. Penny, if you're looking to complete the weekend missions, this is the current best performing Penny deck, and I like it. Again, Hydration Robert making another deck here. I've loved Galacta with Captain Marvel. Penny Parker's worked really well with Captain Marvel too, and I actually prefer, I have versions that I'm running with Agony, and I like it because Agony can be played with Penny Parker, it can be played with Captain Marvel, and I think that, like, I'm on the cusp of making this really interesting kind of like movement-based Agony Cap Marvel deck, which, like, I was just on the cusp of in the video I released for Penny, and I've been trying to, like, refine it a little bit. I just don't think Penny's that good to really warrant the build around, but Captain Marvel is amazing with Galacta and amazing with Agony, so I'm trying to figure that deck out. But got a 56% win rate here, 0.30 cube rate. Those are great stats. Those are like medium, like, yes, this is a good deck. You can play it, you can rank, you can be competitive. 56% win rate, 0.30 cube rate, solid. And so I like to see these types of decks. Angela making a list as well. The only card I have not actually liked in this deck, because I tested this one quite a bit, was Juggernaut. I just didn't really feel like Juggernaut was a great play here. Like, I can kind of feel it. Like, I can understand why you want it, but at the same time, like, it's cool on turn 6, especially alongside like the Kitty Pryde or something like that. And it helps with Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel can, like, kind of mitigate that randomness that that's generated from the Juggernaut. I don't like Juggernaut in this deck, to be honest with you, but it's performing, but that's just my opinion. What the hell do I know? Going to number 4, Galactaling. I like this deck a lot too, because, again, statistically, 56% win rate, 0.44 cube rate. It's legit. Has a lot of the similar cards, and once again, it's a Hydration Robert deck. It's crazy. Listen, I was actually someone who liked Hydration Robert. When he got buffed up to 1.5, like right at the last minute, I was like, damn, it's a big buff, man. I kind of liked him at 1.4. He was good enough at 1.4, but at 1.5, like, he's actually kind of good. And now in this deck, it's like, man, Hydration Robert with Galacta is a 1.8. Like, obviously, you're not really playing him with Galacta. Like, I played this deck a bunch, and, like, you're never really playing him then. Like, honestly, you're not relying on Hydration Robert generally, because, like, there's so many better hits. But it was kind of cool to see him there. And I do like the idea of playing Iron Man Galacta, because that's just free real estate, right? And then you have the Legion, which is cool, but most importantly, the Hulkling is spicy. It's spicy, and I tested this deck, and, like, Hulkling was, like, cringe half the time, honestly, but there were times, like, he was pretty legit. Like, I was like, okay, we got something, we got like an Onslaught. I had a game where I got an Onslaught. I'm like, okay, I can Galacta Iron Man, the Galacta Onslaught, and smash that location, right? Which is interesting. You can't rely on that, but it's cool to see Hulkling in a top 10 deck at number 4. So anyways, there's that at least. Then we're going to top 3. Silver Surfer. I showed you Classic Surfer before. Now this is actually like the meta Surfer. No longer in it, unfortunately, is Luna Snow. Luna Snow doesn't make this deck anymore, which is kind of sad. But anyways, it has Zabu, Forge, Cassandra Nova. That's kind of an interesting opening trio there. Into the Brood, Absman, of course. But you do have the Juggernaut again. Juggernaut's making these decks. Galacta, of course. Galacta has completely amped up these decks as well. And again, it's kind of fascinating to see, but with the addition of Hope Summers, you don't need the Sarah. Like, I tend to prefer Sarah Surfer, but here you're running Galacta, Hope Summers, and you're running Gwenpool. So it's all about the numbers, the buffing, and the outright power generation that you're capable of, and utilizing Hope Summers to kind of generate a little bit of leeway so you can maybe do a Surfer or Absman. But you generally want to go Brood or Absman using the Galacta buff, right? Sometimes you can even do something along the lines of you can go Galacta on 4, Brood on 5, and you do the Brood on top of the Hope Summers, and that gives you enough energy to do Sebastian Shaw's Surfer. Not Sebastian Shaw's Surfer, sorry. You're able to do Absorbing Man Surfer with the 7 energy, right? You follow up on turn 6. So the play lines feel a little weird and upside down without Sarah, but it's something worth considering. It's a very interesting take on the game and on the archetype, I should say, and I love Silver Surfer. 57% win rate, 0.44 cube rate. Why not, right? Why not? I think that it's a good deck in the top 3. Going to the top 1. Well, I just clicked the wrong one again. Hey, that was just a little fake out there. A little fake out. Wiccan Gore. It's Wiccan Gore. This one, fortunately, doesn't have Galacta in it. That's exciting, I guess. But you do have Quicksilver. You got the Mirage again. Damn it. Look at this Mirage. 57% winner, 0.45 cube rate. And it's a blink deck. It's a blink deck. I think this is kind of interesting. I like this list a lot. Now, with regards to the blink, when I was like testing this deck, right, I was like, man, I don't know if I like Blink in this deck. Like, I just feel like it kind of like I would replace it with something else if I could choose. But again, I'm going off of the statistical decks here. I'm not cooking here. And like, I was like, man, I don't want to rotate Wiccan out. Like, I get it. I can rotate Wiccan out. I can hit the Gore. I can hit the Eliath or whatever. But like, I don't know. He's 7 power. I don't want to just leave him out hanging. You know what I mean? So like, there was times where I was like, I felt like the Blink could probably be replaced, but the stats don't lie. 57% win rate, 0.45 cube rate. The deck's performing. And it's Gore. I kind of find it interesting, though, that these decks here are not utilizing Gore in the sense that, like, you don't have the Gore Mystique line that was, like, so prevalent on the initial release, which I think made the, obviously you have Enchantress getting buffed, but it also made Rogue so popular. And now, like, it's not seeing the same level of play. Like, you're not committing hard to Gore. And I mean, we talked about that on Snapchat before. We're like, hey, a lot of these good cards, like, you don't have to overcommit to. You don't have to go all in on Gore, so it's, like, the only way you win a game. But anyway, so I found this deck particularly interesting. Not the way I would have cooked it with Blink, honestly, as I've mentioned prior, but still, I do appreciate it. I like seeing some new stuff on the decks of the week. As we go to our number 1 deck of the week, I gotta say, guys, if everybody right now, okay, I know it's a bit cringe, but if everyone now who's not subscribed subscribes, we actually would hit 100,000 subscribers with just this video. We are so close. And the sad thing is, I'll be honest with you, the sad thing is that like Marvel Snap is in such a slump that like, we're probably not gonna make it to 100K. We're not gonna make it to 100K in 2024. Unless we absolutely knock it out of the park within the next couple of weeks, right? So if you're not subscribed, or like even if you just don't even realize, you're like, hey, I haven't actually checked, am I subscribed to this guy or not? If you do hit that button, I would sincerely appreciate it, because like it's been something, I don't know, I've been fixated on for 2024. Like, can we do it before December 31st, man? Going into 2025, getting the play button on the way, all that stuff. Anyways, I just thought I'd mention it. We're so close, but yet it feels so far away at times. I love you guys. I appreciate all your support, regardless whether or not we hit it or not. It's just, I'm very lucky to get to do what I do. So I love you guys and I appreciate you. As we move to number 1, and it's Fenrir's Discard. Yes. Now listen, this is one of those moments where I'm like, bro, I haven't even played against this deck. I've been playing Snap quite a bit lately, actually, and I have not even played against this deck. And it's kind of funny because like at a 62% win rate, 0.58 cube rate, it is so far gone as being the best on Untapped. And I found it interesting because it only had about 280 games played, which honestly, games across the board are down, like so far down. Like we don't have the sample size we used to. And as a result, this deck kind of climbed to the top. I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I know I liked Fenris. I liked Fenris before. I gave him 4 stars. And I was like, oh, it's, he's not 4 star. I still think Fenris is good. And now you got like, I just got a deck near the top, man. I don't know. I think it's solid. I think it's a solid deck. I think it's a little too reliant on the Gambit or Moon Knight, honestly, or specifically the Moon Knight. Gambit's a little too random. I think Moon Knight can reach a little higher more consistently than the Gambit for the Fenris. But still, the deck's performing, man. You cannot shy yourself away from the stats. So they're doing good. And if you happen to have Fenris, you can play this deck. And if you don't have Fenris, I mean, he definitely makes this deck better, but if you don't want to play Fenris, you just play straight up discard. It's good too. I've been playing so much discard lately. And also the Scream deck doesn't make the top 10 just because it doesn't have the sample size. I still think Scream's, I'll bring it up right now. I still think Scream's good. I've been playing a lot of this. Where is it? I know I have the Scream. Here it is. This deck's still good. I know it doesn't hit the top 10. I don't care. I know I'm completely off script now. Deck is still good. So if you want to play something else, this one is still legit. It just didn't have the sample size. No one's playing it right now for whatever reason. Still legit. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love each one of you. Thank you so much for supporting my content, especially through these like difficult times with Marvel Snap. It really means a lot to me that you're here supporting me. Love you guys, and we'll see you on that next one.